Welcome to your daily dose of salt and light with Nadine Ness. I don't know why it just went straight to that. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things today, but the two main things that I'm going to be covering is RFK Jr. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s confirmation as I keep trying to think it's not the NIH, it's the HHS. So I think what that means is I'm going to just Health and Human Services Secretary. So he just got confirmed yesterday. I'm going to be talking about the Ukraine Russia war and what's happening on that level. Are we getting closer to World War III or are we getting closer to a peace deal? I'm going to share my thoughts on it as well. I'm going to cover some of the stuff that's going on in Canadian politics a little bit as well. And I think that's it. But we might as well just get into it. Also, let me know where you're watching from. And if anything's wrong with my mic, the other day, I just realized it's not in the right spot. The other day, my mic wasn't working and nobody told me the whole episode. You could still hear me because it was picking up what I was saying from my camera mic, which I didn't even know that was possible. It was something in the settings. So let me know if my mic makes a scratchy noise. I think we've got it fixed now. I haven't heard anyone say anything. But yeah, let me know if there's any issues with anything. And I was just quickly setting up the screen share because I'm going to be sharing some videos as well as just content on X. So, but yeah, well, we might as well get into it. So the first topic, also, I might be coughing throughout this episode. I'm actually much better than I was, but I have someone watching from Montana. Awesome. I I was a little bit, it's not even sick because my nose is not runny. It's just my throat is really itchy. So I'm getting over it now. So I'm getting much better, but I was coughing a lot yesterday. If you didn't notice, I might just mute myself when I cough. But if you didn't notice yesterday, I had Frank Vaughn on the show and I kept muting myself because I kept coughing. But this is a live show. I don't pre-record. So you get what you get what you get. You get me the good and the bad. But anyways, I want to talk about RFK Jr. getting confirmed. It's not a secret that I'm an RFK Jr. fan. I've been following him since COVID. And since COVID, I started learning more and more about him, and I've had more and more respect for him. And I'm so excited about this because I think for the first time ever, there's going to be actual money and money put into studies to study what's causing our children to be so sick, and not just children, the entire population. So he has some ideas. There's been studies also out there discovered that he's going to bring light to it. And I think it's going to have a cascading effect on Canada as well. So if you don't know, some of the information is finally starting to get out. There was a report on the COVID pandemic data that was release a couple weeks ago. The head of the team that was doing the information gathering that did the report to release was Dr. Gary Davidson, who came on my show the following Monday. So I think that was a few I think that was a few weeks ago. So but yeah. Anyways, so that happened. I'm super excited about it. I'm going to go show you guys a bit of videos as well. So the first one, so this was a post I'll show it to you guys when Trump confirmed him. I want people to understand how big of a deal this is. RFK Jr. was running for president as an independent, so not a part of the Democrat Party, not a part of the Republican Party. He used to be a former Democrat, and he ran as an independent. And what he had to do to be on the ballot was actually quite insane. He had to get so many signatures. I think it was something like 1 million signatures throughout all of Canada. And he made it. and he was on the ballot. But there was one thing he was afraid of, is if he didn't win, that meant him doing a difference in the health of Americans was never going to happen. So he did a video when he announced that he was switching. It was a monumental moment in American politics, because you had someone who was a former Democrat who had a lot of support on the Democrat side, who then became independent, and then all that support moved over to Trump. And I don't think that Trump would have won if that hadn't happened. Based on the polling and everything and all the support he brought over, I don't think Trump would have won. And so I think it was a really good strategic move, so he would be able to be placed in a position where he would be able to influence the most amount of change. And I mean, we have to be honest, RFK Jr. is not that young. So for him to wait till potentially becoming the president later on in the future was less likely to kind of occur, just because he's older. But he is extremely healthy for his age. The guy can do a lot of push-ups and pull-ups, but yeah, I think it was a monumental move. So I've got a few videos I'm going to share with you guys. Here, I got to find them and get them set up, because I have to switch screens. So Nicole Shanahan did a video. I haven't watched the whole thing, just at like the first minute. So I'll play it with you guys here. So we'll be watching it together. And I just realized I didn't close my door. Give me 1 second. There. I could hear Andrew screaming, "Mommy." Anyways, we'll see if he'll cooperate. He's probably going to be quite loud, but okay, let's share the screen with you guys. And if you're watching on the replay, this is live. So I can't edit this out. Again, what you get is what you get.
We are told today that our nation is hopelessly divided. But I found something different as I travel this country. I have witnessed an upwelling of optimism that I've never seen before. Something is stirring in us. Let's go take back our country.
RFK Jr. is just about ready to make headlines with his running mate choice.
And I'm so proud to introduce to you my fellow lawyer, a brilliant scientist, technologist, a fierce warrior mom, Nicole Shanahan.
This campaign is so much more than politics. This campaign is about what is sacred, health and our families in this beautiful land that deserves much greater attention and care than we've given it.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s favorability is skyrocketing.
Bobby Kennedy just got up and said, America leads the world in chronic illness.
This is a real issue that we all face, and we're all being poisoned, and they're profiting off of it. But when someone like RFK Jr. comes along and says, hey, I think we can fix this, it's like, give him a chance.
This is a spiritual journey for me. For 19 years, I prayed every morning that God would put me in a position to end this calamity. The most unifying theme for all Americans is that we all love our children. If we all unite around that issue now, we can finally give them the protection, the health, and the future that they deserve.
Some have called this an unlikely partnership. Former President Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have formed an alliance.
Former President Trump says he'll work with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to make America healthy again.
Tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Don't you want healthy children? And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
The MAGA unity movement is very, very strong in the United States right now. Arguably, it is the largest movement in the world.
MAGA should be entirely bipartisan. This is people wanting to make America healthy again.
The most powerful new force in American politics is these moms of the Make America Healthy Again.
This is a transcendent, powerful movement, and it crosses party lines.
I'm a mother to a child with special needs, and I will dedicate the rest of my life to fighting on behalf of children and their right to be healthy and their right to thrive.
If you are a well person, you have the American dream at your feet. But if you're sick, you only have one dream, and that's to get better. And I can promise you that we are going to make America healthy again.
I don't know if you follow Nicole Shanahan. I'll show her account here. They do really, really awesome videos like this. Almost everything she puts out, it's so high quality. I wish elected officials in Canada was to do the same thing. I talked about this with Frank Vaughn yesterday, but that was a really good video. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to attack RFK Jr. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to attack him in Canada. And I want to play a video because he's been accused of many things, a ton of conspiracy. And this short 1-minute clip just debunks all of it. I'm just going to get it ready here.
Question for you. Are you a conspiracy theorist?
That is a pejorative, Senator, that's applied to me, mainly to keep me from asking difficult questions of powerful interests. I was told that I was a conspiracy theorist. That label was applied to me because I said that the vaccines, the COVID vaccine, didn't prevent transmission and it wouldn't prevent infection, when the government was telling people, Americans, that it would. I was saying that because I was looking at the monkey studies in May of 2020. I was called a conspiracy. Now everybody admits it. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said red dye caused cancer. And now FDA has acknowledged that and banned it. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said fluoride lowered IQ. Last week, JAMA published a meta-review of 87 studies saying that there's a direct inverse correlation between IQ.
Oh. So I thought it was longer. It cut it out. I should have checked to see if it was the whole thing. But it's true. They're calling him conspiracy theorist for things that are proven to be true. I sometimes joke about this. They say conspiracy theory is about 6 months from being the truth. They wait 6 months and it comes out as the truth. Obviously not all of them. There are a lot of crazy stuff out there, but this is just a classic example of what they do to people who ask questions, who have concerns. And I remember when I started speaking out and say, hey, we should be having informed consent for the COVID shots, not just this blanket safe and effective. The fact of the matter is, if we had informed consent, they would have said, you know what, we don't have long-term studies, but we don't have any indication that it's dangerous. Well, technically they did at the time. They were just hiding it. But they should have been giving people the information, the actual truth for the product. And they didn't. They lied to everyone. So everyone who took it did not get informed consent. And then that doesn't even cover the people who were coerced and forced into it. So I just find it really interesting to see. I'm really looking forward to all the information that's going to come out. So that one, just specifically, that one is addressing fluoride, that small little clip. It's interesting to see all the studies starting to come out. And I'm really looking forward to, now that this is a priority of making Americans safe again, that I'm hoping a lot of resources will be put into studying these things so that we know what is hurting us and what isn't. Let's see what else. Oh, this is another video. So this was a video that when he did when he first announced. I think there was a longer one that I saw, but I think it was Nicole that posted it. But I was trying to go through this and find this. I'm already so late starting because I was having a hard time finding what I wanted to show you guys. But this is one of the video that he did shortly after announcing that he was joining up with Trump.
The most profitable asset in America today is a sick child.
Basically, our population en masse is being drugged for profit.
The money's made keeping them chronically ill, keeping them on drugs.
It's the same structure, it's the same problem, and it's all motivated by money.
One of the ways that would have to address it would be to encourage people to become metabolically healthy. We have zero encouragement. In fact, it is actually the opposite.
And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again? I did the unthinkable, which was to join the Trump campaign. This occurred after weeks and weeks of talks with that campaign, in which we became convinced of their commitment to make America healthier again. And he said to me, I want to leave this as my legacy. He's only going to be in for 4 years. This is what he told me. The best thing that he could do with his administration is to end the chronic disease epidemic. Got me into a position where I can actually do something to end the chronic disease epidemic. And we're going to start on day one. We're going to declare a public emergency.
I haven't seen the public emergency being declared yet, but interesting. I am trying to think when he announced this here. Let me see. This video was September 6, 2024. I'm pretty sure it was around the same time. Interesting. Let's see what else I've got here. I'm going to go through a few comments here. No, I didn't put this clip together. Someone asked, did you put this clip together? No. I don't know which one it was we were watching, but it might have been Nicole Shanahan, maybe. Oh, funny. When you comment, it says 9:12 p.m. Are you sure you're Montana? I think the time might be saying otherwise. Okay, Carol watching from Ontario, Brenda watching from she's not saying where she's watching from, but she makes a good point. Brenda says his family has mostly gone against him. Shame on them. He has ethics. It's true. It's true. Most of his family kind of turned on him. Like I think they're still talking. Jonathan Grand is watching from Barhead. Brent says this is great news. Highly strategic from both of them, from Kim. And then we have David from YouTube. David says great stream with Frank yesterday. David, were you already following me, or did you just found out about my account from Frank? I'm just curious as to if Frank's followers are now also following me. Maria says the left are angry because their bank accounts won't be growing and exposure is happening. Yeah, I think we're going to see massive change in the near future. So Brenda's sharing a story. I'll read it to you. When we were in a battle with Big Pharma interests regarding MS in 2010, I said I was conspiracy realist, and it seems to have stuck. Love hearing normal life in the background, Nadine. Kids and birds. Oh, can you guys hear them? The birds are not in the room right now. When I had Callie in here, I had to move them, so I haven't moved them back in. Yeah, I think it's good night for someone who's watching from Twitter. But it's daytime for other people. I forgot to say happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Do you guys have any fun plans for this evening? Jonathan and I, we may go have we often will go to Canadian Brew House on Fridays. They have like a prime rib special for like $20. So we're we're kind of cheap. It's very rare you can get a good prime, like slow cooked prime rib for that much. So if you ever see us at Canadian Brew House, we go quite almost every Friday. So, but yeah, you can get a smaller one or a bigger one for like $24. So most people don't know. So maybe I shouldn't have said anything. You guys are all gonna go, and then there'll be none left for us. So I'll play the next video. So this is Ron Paul. It's a bit longer, 5 minutes, but and let me know if you can't hear it. But I think it's good. Let's see.
You know, I think the discussion over
This is about the
vaccines
RFK
is
hearing.
so oversimplified and dumbed down that we never really get to real truths. And it's why people up here are so separated from real people at home. So we talk about hepatitis B. It's a terrible disease. It could lead to liver failure, as the chairman said. But the reason you have distrust from people at home, why they don't believe anything you say, they don't believe government at all, is you're telling my kid to take a hepatitis B vaccine when he's 1 day old. You get it through drug use and sexually transmitted. That's how you get hepatitis B. But you're telling me my kid has to take it at 1 day old. That's not science. And so every person with a bit of common sense, even people who don't resist vaccines, I vaccinated all my kids. I believe vaccines are one of the modern miracles beyond all pale. The Speckled Monster is a great book about the introduction of the smallpox vaccine in 1720 into our country. All miracles. But I'm not a one-size-fits-all. It's not all or nothing. I chose to wait on my hepatitis B vaccine, and we did it when they went to school. Does that make me an awful person? Does that make me an anti-vaxxer because I questioned the government dictate of whether I do it? And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm only speaking for myself. But for goodness sakes, let's have an honest debate about these things. The COVID vaccine. If you ask me my opinion, the reporters run up and down the hall and they say, you still anti-vaccine? No, I'm pro-vaccine. But on the COVID vaccine, and on the COVID illness, there was a 1,000-fold or more difference between the elderly and children. If you don't acknowledge that, you're committing malpractice. You're showing your ignorance. If you say a 6-month-old must be mandated to get it, the science is not there. So all this blather about the science says this and the science says that, no, it doesn't. The science actually shows that no healthy child in America died from COVID. Look it up. No healthy child died from COVID. And so the thing is that it's 1,000-fold greater. So if you ask me my advice as a physician, if you were 65 or older or overweight and some other conditions, I would have said, hell yes, I'd take the COVID vaccine. The risks of the disease were real and much greater than the vaccine. But if you ask me, should my healthy 6-month-old get it? See, these are the nuances you're unwilling to talk about because there's such a belief in submission. Submit to the government. Do what you're told. There is no discussion. There ought to be a debate. You're not going to let him have the debate because you're just going to criticize and say, it is this and admit to it or we're not going to appoint you. But it's more complicated than that. And this is why people distrust government, because you're unwilling to have these conversations. And go home, ask your Democrat young mothers, your Republican young mothers, if they're vaccinating their kid for hepatitis B and they're like, well, do I have to do it on day one? It's this precious little baby. Is there science to say you shouldn't do it? Probably not, but it's my kid. You know, it's like there isn't clear-cut science saying not to. But on autism, there's no good science of anything to show what causes autism. We don't know. It's a profound disease. I know many moms here and dads who have kids with autism. I know them personally. I've met their kids. But the thing is they saw their kids developing completely normal, maybe speaking 100 words go to no words at about 15 months of age. There isn't proof. There isn't proof that the vaccines cause it. That's true. There isn't proof that it causes it, but we don't know what causes it yet. So shouldn't we be at least open-minded? We take 72 vaccines. Could it be? I don't know. But we shouldn't just close the door and say we're no longer, because we believe so much in submission, we're not going to have an open mind to study these things. And so it's sort of this crazy notion. Schizophrenia, I would put in the same notion. You have a kid who's completely normal to 18 or 19, and their brain goes haywire. How does that happen? It's the most bizarre disease. Shouldn't we be open? Could it be our food? It might be vaccines. It might be our food, but autism is more common. I don't know about the schizophrenia statistics, but autism is more common. Shouldn't we want to be open-minded? Instead, we're so close-minded and we're so consensus-driven that the science says this. Well, science doesn't say anything. Science is a dispute, and 10 years from now, we could all be wrong. We were told in the beginning, 20 years ago, they did this enormous study and they said, everybody over 50 should take an aspirin. I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. It makes sense. But you know what? 20 years later, they measured it. And they found if you had no heart disease and you were taking aspirin, your chance of dying from a brain bleed or from a stomach bleed were greater than the risk of heart disease. If you have heart disease, they still say take an aspirin. If you don't, they've changed their mind 20 years later. But would you have all said I was crazy and I should no longer be in public discourse if I had said 20 years ago, I don't feel like taking an aspirin. I ride my bike all the time. I'm afraid I might hit my head. But that's what country's about. It's what dissent is about. So just ask you to look at the larger picture and give the guy a break who says, I just want to follow the science where it leads without presupposition. I think really what we have up here is presupposition. You've already concluded. It's absolute that autism isn't caused by it. We don't know what causes autism, so we should be more humble in what we say. Sorry, I didn't get to a question.
I agree. I just want to make a point. I'm just going to go back here quickly. I just want to replay it.
Presupposition. You've already concluded. It's absolute that autism isn't caused by it.
He says, okay, so he says, we don't know what causes autism. There's no study out there that talks about what causes us autism. And there's no studies that says vaccine doesn't cause autism. There's no studies that says it does, but there's none that says it doesn't. So for people to say there's no correlation, that's also not true. We just don't know. But the point that I want to make, science is not dead set in stone. What is scientifically the consensus today could completely change tomorrow when new information is brought in. Science is constantly meant to be challenged. And the fact that the scientific world or the loudest voice within the scientific world has said that it's set in stone, follow the science. No, the science has never been set in stone. If it was, we'd still be cutting people to get them to bleed out. People who deliver babies still wouldn't be washing their hands before they go from working on a cadaver to delivering a baby. The doctor that says, hey, we should be washing our hands before we go and deliver a baby, he was kicked out from the scientific consensus back then. To think that we've evolved to a point where we don't do that anymore, no, it's human nature. You don't want to be proven wrong. And I get so frustrated with doctors or scientists who push this narrative that it can't be challenged, it can't change, it can't be amended. I get so angry with them because they are ego-driven idiots in my mind. Ego-driven idiots. They are not open to learning more, continuously learning in their career, in their life. They just are so set in their ways and they don't want to be proven wrong because that'll hurt their little ego. When I hear of doctors like that pushes that narrative, follow the science, oh, it can't be challenged, oh, you're a patient, you can't make your own decision, or you're not going to listen to my advice, you're going to do what your gut tells you, okay, then maybe I can't be a doctor. If you have a doctor like that, change doctors. Because if it's not now, it'll be sometime in the future where they'll make grave errors and mistakes. The numbers of people who die from doctor error in the States, I'm curious what it is here. Let me see. What are the numbers? That number alone should humble every single doctor in the US. 44,000 to 98,000 deaths per year due to medical errors. In 2016, BMJ study suggested 251,000 deaths per year, and that's in the US. Does that mean doctors don't have education training that we have? No, they have a lot more education and training, but you have to also understand where that education and training comes from. You also have to understand the influence that are around doctors to push a certain medication, to suggest a certain medication to a patient. Basically, they're taught what they're being taught by other entities. And often they're the drug manufacturers, the one who stand to profit the most. That's why all of this is why I have huge distrust into the medical community. Thankfully, I have a doctor who understands informed consent. She doesn't pressure me. She doesn't she'll tell me what she thinks, but she'll never once put pressure. She understands that patients get the ultimate final decision. If you don't have one of those, I highly suggest you find a new one. Oh, this is a God. um I'll play this one too because I thought this was really glorifying to
We have
God.
problems in this country that we must face honestly. And the first thing I've done every morning for the past 20 years is to get on my knees and pray to God that he would put me in a position to end the chronic disease epidemic and to help America's children. That's why I'm so grateful to President Trump for the opportunity to sit before you today and seek your support and partnership in this endeavor. The health problems in this country that we must face honestly. And the first thing I've done every morning for the past 20 years is to get on my knees and pray.
Sorry, play it again. I was reading some of the comments. There's some really good one. I'm gonna Maria says, science doesn't stand still. Do better, people. Science and modern medicine is still in its infancy of wisdom and knowledge. To think otherwise is disingenuous. It's true. Well, if a doctor pushes meds without asking your whole lifestyle, is just there to push drugs and make money. And this is so true. My former partner was an ex-pharma rep. He said most doctors don't take time to research their RX knowledge base comes from the rep sales pitch. And not only that, like they have a program called Up to Date that doctors go to get the recommendation on dosage and stuff. While that information in Up to Date comes from the manufacturers of the medication. So Heather says less than 1% of vaccine deaths are posted on VAERS, which is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. How many adverse events and or deaths are really happening? I don't know, but I have an opinion on this. Like it's not a fact, it's an opinion. So my family, I was an anti-vax up until COVID. I've been fully vaxxed and boosted by whatever vaccine was available. When I joined the RCMP, they gave me a whole bunch more because I might not have been up to date. I've had every shot available to someone my age other than COVID. Now, before COVID happened, James, when he had his 4-month shot, we went to get whatever the 4-month shot is. And just, I want to back up too. I have a brother who died of SIDS. They don't know the reason. And it was 4 months. So what happens at 4 months old? So my son, when he was 4 months, we went to get I think it was his first shot. I don't think he had any. And we had an angel monitor. So if you don't know what that is, it's like a little sock thing that goes on the feet that monitors the oxygen level and the heart rate. And it records everything into a thing. And because I had a brother who died of SIDS and my other brother, Nicholas, also struggled. He was also on a machine that went off quite a few times. He also had asthma. So there was a few times where the machine saved my other brother's life. He was a very, very sick kid, always sick. And so I have James now, who's 4 months. I take him to get his shots, as I did with all my other kids. My first 2 kids have had every shot that they were supposed to have up until this point. So I wasn't anti-vaccine by any means. However, so I take my 4-month-old shot. He was not the same. He was cranky, but not just for a little while, for about 3 weeks. And I didn't really think of it, but we had him on this machine. And at one point in time, and I wasn't sure at the time, it didn't even clue in. At one point in time, one of the nights, it was in the same week he got his shot, the O2 stats had dropped to I think like 76, and his heart rate had dropped to like under 80, which made the alarm go off. And there are false alarm, but usually false alarm is like the outlet, it's like the sock moves away or anything. Anyways, I could not wake him up. He was turned all blue, like he looked dead. And I grabbed him and I shaked him, and eventually slowly came back to. And thankfully, we didn't have to call the ambulance or anything. But I didn't even clue into anything. I didn't even realize it was the same week I got vaccinated. He got vaccinated. And then I decided the following, like when his next shot was due, I remembered how sick he was. And I even went to the doctor and I said, he hasn't been himself for like over 3 weeks. So it's somewhere in the file, in the notes somewhere. I hope she wrote it in. So when the next shot came up, whatever the time it was, I didn't take him in. It's just like a gut feeling. I'm like, if he was that sick then, obviously he's not reacting to the shot the same way every other kid is. So I'm going to wait it out till he's much older. At least then he can tell me if something's wrong with him. You know, when they're little ones, they can tell you something's wrong with him. It's just like a gut feeling. And even then I wasn't anti-vax. And then COVID came around. And I saw how much they lied, how much they made these promises, how much they say, oh, safe and effective. And when the fact of the matter is just common sense, we don't know. You can't say it is. We don't know yet. There's no long-term data. And it actually made me go back to go double check. I was like, I wonder if that's why James pretty much coded. Not really, but kind of. I went back and looked at the outlet because it monitors everything. It was saving everything. I went back and looked. And sure enough, it was the same week as his 4-month shot, whenever I took it in for the 4-month shot. So I'd love to say I'm not anti-vax right now, but I can't say that I feel comfortable taking my child after he's had such a severe reaction to go put something into his body that has hurt him. And there's like this gut instinct here that tells me I shouldn't. Now, does that mean every child out there shouldn't? No, my personal opinion is I think that certain people's body processing, DNA, or whatever you want to call it, makes them more high risk, more at risk. And I think my family, my bloodline is just one of those. We also had issues with Bria as well. We had her on a monitor. So my oldest daughter. So we had her also on a monitor because I was so afraid of SIDS. So, and I also had my son Nathan on it, although theirs wasn't the same kind of monitor. So it could have been false alarm because that one detected movements. So, but anyways, I had that as a peace of mind kind of thing. So with James, if we didn't have that, what would have happened? I potentially would have woken up to the same horror my parents woke up to when my older brother died of SIDS. So while I don't think it's necessarily the same for everyone, I do think some families or some people are more prone to it. And I do want this searched and studied. And I hope that RFK Jr. leads the way in this, because if it is causing massive amounts of deaths and children to be really unhealthy? I want to know. And to be honest, it angers me anytime anyone says, well, we shouldn't be wasting time studying this, the science is settled. No, it's not. It's never been settled. It's never been researched. So anyone who says that, to me, huge red flag. And I think maybe the reason they don't even want it researched is because if it's found to have harmed people, I don't think consciously they'll be able to live with themselves. So anyways, that's my opinion. So Rhonda says, if doctors and scientists knew exactly how our bodies run, they would be able to identify the reason for sickness and diseases and know exactly how to fix it. They do not. The creator did an amazing job. And I want to make a point that in one of the video where he says, is it Ron Paul? What's his name here? Just give me a second. I think it's Ron Paul. Oh, it doesn't say. Oh, I'm still in the video of RFK Jr. Where is it? Senator. Oh, the time is in front of it. Senator Paul. I think it's Rand Paul. Ron Paul is, I think, related to him, but he's the guy that wants to cut all the government waste. Yeah, Rand Paul. Thanks, guys. But he made a really good point. Remember when they said, hey, we're going to give, not Advil. What was the one? I'm trying to remember what he said. Aspirin. We're going to give aspirin to everyone who's over a certain age because it helps. They won't have heart issue or they'll help with a heart issue. And it turns out that aspirin causes brain bleed. Remember when he said that? My common sense mind is like, why would God design a body that needs something else to survive and function? Like, I don't think there should be all these extra things that we need to add in to make us healthy. I think we're automatically healthy. Do I think there's viruses and things out there that can cause us to be unhealthy? Yeah. But we also have an immune system that's designed to protect against that. And with the information on COVID and the shots and stuff, I question a little bit what effects do all of this have on our immune system to be able to maybe not be able to do the job that it was designed to do. So there's been numerous studies. We talked about it when Sheldon was on the phone, on interview. There's been numerous studies that the COVID shot, if children have had the COVID shot, they're more at risk from severe RSV and severe flu. So does that mean the COVID shot might have damaged some of their immune system? I don't know. But why are they more at risk for RSV? And RSV is much, much more dangerous than COVID was for children. The flu is much more dangerous than COVID was for children. So every time we play God, it makes me wonder, okay, there's a counter to that. What else is it doing? And that's why I think it needs to be researched and studied. And anyone who doesn't want to do that, to me, I automatically put them in the category. Sorry, I can't trust you. So what's the next thing here? Okay. We're going to move on to the next subject. Oh, I'm going to read a couple more comment. Well said. My second son had a bad reaction immediately after his MMR. He is now on the scale. My mom took my daughter-in-law and 2 babies for H1 shots while I was away. They double shot the littlest and he changed. Like moms know. Like deep inside, we know when our babies change. And like Bria, my oldest, like we had so many issues with her. Not right away. She was perfectly normal kid till 18 months. And then she changed. And she was like unmanageable. right at 18 months, but we had nothing, no issues up until then. She was actually like a really good baby, really good child. And then at 18 months, she would have these massive amounts of tantrum. So sometimes I wonder if that was okay. Next subject. We're might as well get into this here. Whoops. There you go. I don't know why it's recording the old when I had Kelly in the studio, but the those cameras are shut down now. Okay, so this is a lot of words. I'm going to take a sip before I read it. I just had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. We discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollar, and various other subjects. We both reflected on the great history of our nations and the fact that we fought so successfully together in World War II, remembering that Russia lost tens of millions of people and we likewise lost so many. We each talked about the strength of our respective nations and the great benefit that we will someday have in working together. But this, as we both agreed, we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia, Ukraine. President Putin even used my very strong campaign motto of common sense. We both believe very strongly in it. We agreed to work together very closely, including visiting each other's nation. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately, and we will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation, something which I will be doing right now. I have asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of CIA John Ratcliffe, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and Ambassador and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to lead the negotiations, which I feel strongly will be successful. Millions of people have died in a war that would not have happened if I were president. But it did happen, so it must end. No more lives should be lost. I want to thank President Putin for his time and effort with respect to this call and for the release yesterday of Mark Fogel, a wonderful man that I personally greeted last night at the White House. I believe this effort will lead to successful conclusion, hopefully soon. Donald Trump. Truth Social post. So he posted it on Truth Social. So this is a guy that posts all of Donald Trump's posts on Truth Social. He posts them to Twitter. I want to find a post that I had put in the bookmark that I kind of forgot to. Just give me a second. I'm going to find it quickly because I want to show you a glimpse that someone did of Donald Trump. Where is it? Here it is. Just a sec. I won't show it because I grabbed it from the bookmark. So this is the video of Mark coming home at the White House. It must be such an honor to be invited to the White House. I hope one day I get to make it and be invited to the White House. So Bricksuit, which I don't know who he is, but he said this wasn't a campaign promise to bring Mark home. It was a personal promise made to Mark's 95-year-old mother just before the first Butler rally started. Even with everything that happened that day, President Trump remembered. Promises made, promises kept. I just thought that was such a heartwarming story. Okay, now what else is being said about the war? Whole bunch of stuff. We have quite a few videos, so I'll put them on the screen here. It takes me a minute to switch.
They were pretty accurate. I don't see any way that a country in Russia's position could allow them, just in their position, could allow them to join NATO. I don't see that happening. And long before President Putin, Russia was very strong on the fact that I believe that's the reason the war started, because Biden went out and said that they could join NATO, and he shouldn't have said that. As soon as he said that, I said, you know what? You're going to have a war now, and I was right about that. This is a war that would have never happened if I were president.
You don't think it's President Biden's fault, not President Putin? I mean, he's the one.
I think Biden is incompetent, and I think when he said that they could join NATO, I thought that was a very stupid thing to say. I thought when he said, well, it depends if it's a minor incursion. In other words, it's okay if Russia does a minor incursion. I thought that was a very foolish thing to say.
So what Trump is saying is if they hadn't said that Ukraine was going to join NATO, that Russia wouldn't have encroached. So that and it kind of goes along with some of the stuff too that Putin has said. So again, so sorry for coughing. Now, do I agree with him encroaching on Ukraine? No. But here, there's another video here where he talks a bit more about it. I think while he's getting interviewed. Here, I'll play it.
China meeting in the United States, or would you travel to China for that?
For what?
A China meeting.
I tell people all the time, you know, the question is who's going to have the first
Oh, they're asking, are you going to go to Russia, or is Putin going to come here?
meeting where you go, no, I say this to Putin, to President Xi. I say to everybody, never bothered me, you know. I'm willing to say I'll go first. It doesn't matter. It's the end result that counts. So it doesn't make any difference.
When do you want to have a conversation about global defense spending, you, China?
Well, I'd like to have that as soon as things settle down. I'm going to have that conference primarily with China and Russia, because those are the two that really are out there. And we're going to have them spend a lot less money, and we're going to spend a lot less money. And I know they're going to do it. They agreed to it. We were talking about denuclearing, and President Putin and I agreed that we were going to do it in a very big way. There's no reason for us to be building brand new nuclear weapons. We already have so many, you could destroy the world 50 times over.
He makes a really good point. Why are they building it if they still have some available, unless someone wants to profit from them building it? Now, what did Zelensky have to say about
Vladimir
this phone
Putin
call?
and Donald Trump have
Here,
spoken on.
just give me a sec. I've got to get that ready.
Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump have spoken on the phone. You were briefed on the conversation. Is this a risk for yourself, of course, but also the U.S.?
Phone calls between Putin and Trump was risk for United States? I think not risk for United States. I think for Trump, because he's stronger than Putin, I think so. I think risks for all the world, because the priorities, I mean, we have much more risks than risk for the United States, with all respect for all of us, with all the big guys.
Vladimir.
Okay, I just want to make a point. Why the heck is the guy still dressing like that? You're among world leader. Put on a freaking suit. Like this whole and remember when he was like wearing like the bulletproof vest and like the army gear everywhere he goes? Put on a suit. You're the leader of a country. You're not a soldier on the street on the front line. So I'm looking forward to seeing a deal reached, because I think a lot of countries, for two reasons. I think there's way too many people who have died. And I don't think the people who are fighting on the front line of the war even want the war on either side. I think this is leaders making decisions that affect everyone else more than themselves. So that's one thing. I think it's also drained a lot of countries around the world that have been sending money to Ukraine, Canada included. And I think that money could be better used at home. So, there's also concerns because Ukraine was known as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. There's also concern that that money that's going into Ukraine is being funneled and spent elsewhere, or sent back to the people, the corrupt people who are sending it in the first place. So I have those concerns. Now, do I think Russia is the good guy? No. No, I don't think Putin's a good guy. I think he's actually a very dangerous guy. He's extremely manipulative and very well trained. He's one of the smartest people that I've ever watched in an interview. I've seen a few interviews that he's done, and I'm like, wow, he's picking up on everything. And I'm saying this as a profiler. So, and his background would fit. He would be like whatever it's called in their country, the equivalent to the CIA. Like he's one of the smartest people out there. So like I said, I don't think he's the good guy. But what do they say about this in Canada? Now, Pierre Poilievre, following that, I'm going to put also with Putin said. Here, give me a second. I kind of forgot. It's only 18 seconds. I'll read it. It's better for us to meet based on the realities of today, to talk calmly on all those areas that are of interest to both the US and Russia. We are ready. So that's what he has to say. Let's see what else I've got here. Oh, and this I think is a not good decision by Trump. So let's bring this up. I'll play this one.
Russia back to the G7, sir?
I'd love to have him back. I think it was a mistake to throw him out. Look, it's not a question of liking Russia or not liking Russia. It was the G8. And I said, what are you doing? You guys, all you talk about is Russia, and they should be sitting at the table. I think Putin would love to be back. Obama and a couple of other people made a mistake and they got Russia out. It's very possible that if that was the G8, you wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. And if I was president, you definitely wouldn't have had the problem with Ukraine. Russia would have never attacked Ukraine. But you ask a very good question, the G8. It used to be the G8, and then these people threw them out. And I was arguing with Trudeau and with numerous of the people. Actually, Prime Minister Abe, a great man from Japan, agreed with me 100%, and some of the others did too. But I got there, it was the G7, as you know. They had already been terminated. I think it would have been very helpful, and it still would be helpful to have Russia be a part of that mix. And I think if they were, I don't think you would have had the problem that you have right now.
So Trump makes like a point there. If they had been, then would it have maybe created pressure for them to keep things in order? No, but what he doesn't say is why they were kicked out of the G8. So for you to learn, and I didn't know this, like I wasn't paying attention to politics back then. Like a lot of people, I was used to be really clueless. So I didn't even know that they used to be a part of it. I didn't know why they got kicked out. But Pierre made a post here. I'm gonna, where it kind of talks about it. Russia should not be welcomed back into the G7. It was a conservative government that led the charge to kick Russia out of the then G8 because of their illegal invasion of Crimea in 2014. Russia's exclusion from the G7 is every bit as justifiable today. And I think I agree with what he says. However, I also understand that Trump is considering all the chips on the table for the negotiation to end the war. And the chips on that table might be to try to give not processions. Is it the word procession? Give things in return for other things. And I could see how this would be potentially something that Russia would want. If they want to end the war and create alliances with like the US or with Canada or some of the other countries and say, look, we'll end this. We won't encroach anymore, but let's work together. And I'm saying if, I don't know Putin's true intentions, but if the reason he encroached or invaded or started war with Ukraine to get the Donbass region or any other region of Ukraine, if the reason was because they were going to join NATO and he doesn't want NATO to be right next on his border, concessions, thank you. Yeah, so sorry, someone told me the word in the comment. I love having you guys because this happens a lot. English is my second language. So my first language is French. Even though I don't have a lot of an accent, people don't know because I sound kind of like I was born English. So there's certain words like I've heard before and I know what they mean, but the pronunciation is not there. But yeah, so if the real reason was because NATO was starting to look at Ukraine joining it and they don't want NATO right on their border and they feel like this is just going to be a further attack on Russia, which there's been so much war in the past in the history with the USSR and all of that. I could see that be a possibility. You don't have to be pro Putin to see that as a possibility. Now, if the war ends and peace deals are made, if the concessions are okay, we're going to work together from the future, we're going to not be at war with anyone anymore, but we need to have a relationship, we need to stop being excluded from everything. I could see that being one of those concessions. Now, do I agree with it? No, but I also understand Trump is an ultimate negotiator. So he's probably throwing that cookie out there and seeing maybe how it responds to people, how people respond to it, and see, is this something I could consider in the future? So, and what I don't like is this take here. This is a strong statement, and those on the right who criticizes it are other fools. Every Canadian political party must make it abundantly clear that there is zero room in Canada for those who are pro-Russia. If you want to live under Putin's horrendous dictatorship, go live there. Doesn't mean you're pro-Russia if you're questioning things, if you're supporting Trump in doing negotiations for a peace deal. So when I see words like that, it kind of bothers me. Again, I'm not pro-Russia, but I'm also not pro-Ukraine. I think both countries are really awful for very different reasons. So I don't want Canadian dollars being sent to Ukraine in the tunes of billions of dollars when we don't even take care of our own army at home. That does not make me pro-Russia. I am very much pro a peace deal occurring in the Russia-Ukrainian war. And I'm pro that because it will save a lot of lives and it will save Canada from losing more money to a war and that's the thing, Ukraine's never going to win. Ukraine is such a small portion of this. The more money you pump into it, the more this is going to go on. The more lives are going to be lost at both sides. The best move forward, I think, is a peace deal. And I do think that is possible for this particular war because I don't think both countries want this war to begin with. I don't think the regular Ukrainian wants this war, and I don't think the regular Russians want this war. That's the difference. And that's why I think a peace deal can be reached with this. Okay, next subject. Okay, so this is a video. It's 26. So I haven't watched it yet, but this is Nigel Farage in this video. Let's bring it up here. And Hitchhiker says intersectionality thinking is the brainworm of the liberals and quite a cheesy tactic. This person's not actually a liberal who made that post. So, and I disagree with it. I think I think we can talk about both sides. We can talk about issues without being called pro-Russia or anti-Russia. Rhonda says something really, really good. Keep your enemies close. Again, Trump is an excellent negotiator. Trump is a lot of really negative thing, but he's not dumb. He's by no means someone who's dumb. He's very, very strategic in what he does. Does he sometimes move ahead in like a hothead? Yeah. But I don't think he's dumb.
We are now, and again, it's back to the previous question. I don't want to prejudge how these negotiations go, but I would have thought that if we're going to get Putin into a place and Zelensky into a place where we could have a reasonable negotiation, I would have thought, looking ahead, it's probably essential that Ukraine joins NATO. That's going to need to be part of this negotiation. It's a guess, but that's where I see this going. We are now, and again,
So he's saying it's essential
I don't want to
that Ukraine joins NATO. So I don't personally agree with that. I think that Putin's not going to sign for that. The whole reason the war started, based on many reports, is because of exactly that. They were pushing for that. But this post has some wording, so I'm going to read out I'm just going to read it quickly. What this guy said. I don't know who this person is. Again, I picked it because of the video, but I want to read what they say. Reform Party UK leader Nigel said it's probably essential that Ukraine joins NATO. That's going to need to be part of the negotiation. This is definitely not part of President Trump's negotiation strategy for a peace deal. Based on the videos that we've watched, I don't think it is. From a sensible point of view, Ukraine must remain out of NATO in order to avoid World War III. The Minsk 2014 agreement makes this very clear. I don't know what that is. I'm going to look into it more. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said a return to Ukraine pre-2014 borders is unrealistic, and the Trump administration does not see NATO membership for Kiev, or I think it's Kiev, how you say that, as part of a solution to the war triggered by Russia's invasion. Hegseth, at a meeting involving NATO members in Brussels, said the White House does not see NATO membership for Ukraine as a realistic outcome of a negotiation or a negotiated settlement to end the war. Hegseth said the U.S. remains committed full stop to NATO and defense partnership with Europe, but Ukraine's security guarantees should be backed by capable Europe and non-European troops, the Pentagon chief said. So interesting. I'm going to see what else. Now, there's been also something else that has happened since. I've got the news report here. Let's see if I can play it. Can you guys hear the kids in the background? And then it's starting again. Here. So basically there's been is it a missile or it's a Russian drone? Now I'm curious, how do they know it's a Russian drone? Zelensky is blaming Putin. And this person's anyone buying this? I don't know. It's possible. I don't think it's not possible. I think it's more possible than Sorry, I'm trying to adjust the mic. I had to go tell my kids to be more quiet. They were being so loud, screaming. Sorry. Oh, I'll be glad when this coughing stops. And then we've got another video here. I'm going to bring this up. We're going to change subjects. Like, what are you guys' thoughts on the whole war? Do you think it's going to end? And Hitchhiker says they can't join NATO. That will give Russia authority to declare war. Kim says this is a setup. President Z is more corrupt than JT. Putin gave up the Warsaw Pact in the beginning and he was screwed over. NATO is evil, period. Ukraine, biolabs and money laundering. Don't forget human trafficking. Putin isn't necessarily the bad guy here. I don't necessarily think he's the good guy either. Historically speaking, Russia gets poop emoji on a lot by the West since World War II. No love lost from my family pertaining to Russia, however. Maria says it's not our circus. And Golda, I agree with you. Both are bad guys. It is possible that both are bad people. That's very possible. I'm just going to see what else is next. So the Trump charade on 51st states continue. Here's a video.
Going with Canada, there was obviously a delay in implementing those tariffs.
I spoke to Governor Trudeau on numerous occasions, and we'll see what happens. But
they laugh in the
It
background.
just sets up so good for them. Look, the people would pay much less tax than they're paying right now. They'd have perfect military protection. They don't have any military protection because and you take a look at what's going on out there. You have Russian ships, you have China ships, you have Chinese ships, you have a lot of ships out there, and people are in danger. This is a different world today. It's a different world. They need our protection. Yes.
He's saying it's a different world out there. Do they need our protection? Yes. He had a few more words. I think it was like a different question, so I'll share that. This is a different interview.
Canada's been very bad to us on trade, but now Canada's going to have to start paying up. And Canada's been tough on the military because they have a very low military cost. They think we're going to, protect them with our military, which is unfair. So Canada is going to be a very interesting situation because, we just don't need their product. And yet they survive off the fact that we do 95% of what they do. And Canada is just absolutely, I say it, and sometimes people smile and sometimes they say, great idea, but Canada, their taxes would come down greatly. Their security would go up greatly. Amazing things happen to Canada. And really Canada in this particular, why would we pay $200 billion a year in subsidies to Canada when they're not a state? You do that for a state, but you don't do that for somebody else's country. So I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state.
Serious contender to be our 51st state. It's a bit disingenuous to say that they pay $200 billion in subsidy. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's a good reflection of what is actually occurring. But neither he keeps saying that. but there was some information out there because it's not like they just give us the money and they get nothing back in return. They give the money, but then they take the raw product and turn it into a product that they can therefore sell and they make profit out of it. So it's not like they don't get anything back. Now, what it means is that money leaves the U.S. and goes to another country, which is that would true, but it's not subsidies. So let's see what else we've got here. Okay. This is another big
crisis there.
This search a lot of
Fentanyl is an absolute crisis in the United States. It's a challenge here, but it's a crisis there. It's a challenge here, but it's a crisis there. It's a challenge here, but it's a crisis there. Fentanyl is an absolute crisis in the United States.
I'm still searching. It's better. And show you those. And that's better. So across Canada, 50,000 have died due to overdoses. It's just like that one. There are countless heartbroken loved ones and suffering families. Mark Carney said that's not a crisis. Carney is wrong. And I want to share some stats with you guys to show you understand the severity of the crisis here a lot longer than in the U.S. So in the U.S., there was in 2023, 108,000 drug overdose deaths. So when you look at the population of the U.S., it's easy. Here. Okay, so 49,000 between 2016 to June 2024. There's that also per year. Okay. How many? It's just a little bit of guesses. Thanks for your patience with me. I want to compare their numbers or something that I like to do. Total. Why did you give me the total? Okay. So for 2016 to 2023, there was 683,000 overdoses. What is the population of this? It's really doing that math with me. Okay. So the U.S. population is 341 million. Whatever we can do. So 8 times. So 400,000. So if we go based on those numbers, the U.S. overdose are more than double the Canadian overdoses. I'm curious if it was just compared by California, right now. So it is more in the U.S. based on population compared to Canada. Because the U.S. is 8 times bigger. Did I calculate right? Yeah, the US has 340,000. Eight something bigger. So if you do 50,000 to 8 something, it's what was the number again? What was this? Can you guys see me? Yeah. I'm getting all of you guys hear me now? What about that now? It's still doing it. Okay, can you give me 1 second? I was getting a phone call. I think probably from Shauna. She's watching the show. Is it working now? You know what it is? I think I figured it out because every time I use Chat GPT, is it doing it even just a little bit? Here. Oh, right now you guys can probably hear me. It's not a regular mic. Here. Shauna that said the phone call was so you would stop. Is it working now? A tiny bit, but you're audible. Okay, so what happened is when I unhook the mic, I know what it is now. I'm going to tell you guys. Every time I use Chat GPT, it does it. So is it still a little muted? This is good quality. Okay, so when I turned off the mic and plugged it back, it used the camera's mic. So at first you couldn't hear me, but now I'm back on the fancy mic. But I think I know what it is. I think I can't use Chat GPT because it probably uses too much processing power. Good on X now. Okay. It's good. Okay. Well, I'm almost done anyways. Sorry. I kept going. But what I was saying that you guys missed, I did the calculation. At first I thought 109,000 was the number for the US, but that was for 2023 only. So if you go on population size between the US and Canada, we're like the US is like 8 point something higher. So if you times 50,000 by 8 point something, let's say 8.5. Let's see. That's 425,000 would be double, like would be exact. So if we had the population of the US and we go based on that number, we'd have 425,000 overdose death if it was the same population as the US. And the US has like 600 and some thousand. So they are worse off, but not double. It's like 1 point something more. So, and that's the thing. The point of this post is not even saying we are worse than the US. The post is saying that it is a crisis. It is a crisis in Canada that we have that many people who are dying from overdose in Canada. So everyone says, so now you have to rewind 10 minutes. You know what? This is live. I can't even fix it. I can't even edit it out. So people will have to suffer through it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, what's the next topic here? Juno news. Polyev vows 200 to 250K immigration cap deportation for wrongdoers. So if you don't know who Juno News is, this is a brand new thing. I wish I had put up if they made a post or not. Juno News is a new news organization. So it mixes Kian Bexte's organization. What was the name of Kian Bexte? If you know in the comment, feel free to say. I'm just going to see if I can search it here. I'm just going to say Juno News. See if there's a post. And True North News amalgamating with so Candace Malcolm amalgamated with Kian Bexte's news organization. I can't remember what the name is. Oh, there's a video, so we might as well listen to it.
For a very exciting.
Just give me a second. I'll switch screens. So that just happened. I think it was yesterday.
Hi, I'm Candace Malcolm, the founder of True North.
And I'm Kian Bexte, the founder of the Counter Signal.
And today we're in Ottawa coming together for a very exciting announcement that we think is going to change the media landscape in Canada.
You know True North. You've trusted their journalism for years. It's fact-based and independent.
And we love Kian Bexte's brand of in-your-face, fearless journalism.
Today, we're announcing that we're joining forces to change the media landscape in Canada.
We are announcing the launch of Juno News, junonews.com, a subscription-based service where you can find all of the content that you're looking for to stay informed in Canadian news and politics. Documentaries, podcasts, written news. We're going to have so much content for you. We're so excited about it.
This is a critical moment in our nation's history, and over the decades to come, Canadians need to rely on an independent news service that can provide them with fact-based, truthful, and punchy journalism.
Reporters and journalists should never take money from the government. They should not be subsidized and funded, but that's what's happening in Canada. Trudeau is funding legacy media. You cannot trust them. It is too important of a time. This election is so important. We want to make sure that Canadians get the truth. And I worry that if they don't get fact-based journalism from an independent source, they may make another catastrophic mistake in the next election.
Go to junonews.com. Be sure to subscribe and follow along with everything Candace and I are doing as we grow this new company and try to change the face of journalism in Canada.
Please subscribe and help us build a better future.
So that was like their announcement video. So, and they had a lot of reporters with True North, but from my understanding, and like correct me if I'm wrong, True North will be just Candace Malcolm. I think a lot of the other reporters who have was with True North, they've since dropped down. There's been talks about why they did this merger. Like some people are saying it's due to financial reasons and stuff. I'm just checking to see if there's anything else. So yeah, that's kind of bigger Canadian news, especially if you follow both. So yeah, so instead of Counter Signal, now it's going to be it's going to be Juno News for both True North and Counter Signal. So yeah, this is another reporting here of. I'm just going to show you guys. So I wanted to show this data. So he said Pierre Poilievre says he's going to cap immigration at 250,000 newcomers annually. So I thought, well, okay, that sounds pretty high. What is it now? So most recent immigration data uncovered there was 550 new permanent resident, 766,520 temporary foreign worker, and 1,040,985 foreign students came to Canada in 2023. In 2023 alone. How much is that? Let's just add it up real quick. The total. 471. $2,279,000. So sorry, I couldn't mute myself that time. I couldn't get to the Brenda's having a hard time writing counter signal. The autocorrect keeps keeps changing it. Yeah, she says, Brenda says Andrew left to run for office. So Andrew Lawton. I follow Andrew. But yeah, that's a lot. 2.279 million people. We're not building enough houses. No wonder we have like a housing crisis. That is insane. So sorry. Hopefully Monday will be better. Oh, I have huge news. I don't know why I didn't even say it before now. I have a big guest coming tomorrow, and then I'm going to end the show. I had a few more things I wanted to cover, but I see it's already an hour and a half. I have a big guest coming, not tomorrow. Monday. Ruby Dalla, who's running for the Liberal Party of Canada, is coming on my show as a guest on my show tomorrow. So they asked what kind of questions they wanted that I was planning on asking. Not that I have to give them all. They just wanted to get an idea, kind of the general direction of the conversation. So maybe she can prepare with information and stuff too. But anyways, if you have any questions you want me to ask Ruby Dalla on Mondays, she is going to be on my show. I will show you who Ruby Dalla is. She's done quite a few posts that I found very comical. Her troll game is epic. And she's saying things that almost sounds conservative.
The president.
Let's see. Here's a video. It's a 27-second video. Oops. Here. I got to switch screens. I kind of forgot.
Our leadership in our
I forgot again to switch. There you go.
Our leadership in our country has fallen asleep at the wheel for the last 10 years, and the President of the United States thinks that he can push the leadership in our country around. It's simply not going to happen because Canadians in Canada will not be bullied. And as Prime Minister, I'm also going to make sure that our economy is never, ever again hijacked or held at the mercy of any foreign leader. Our leadership in our
That's
country.
one of the videos she did. I'm trying to see if I can bring out some more. So I thought this was a funny post. As Prime Minister of Canada, I will invite the President of the United States to join Canada as the 11th province or 4th territory. A lot of people were quote tweeting this and saying how that's like an epic troll game. I'm curious to what Yeah, I'm curious. This is a video by so that I'll show you this one. I support Ruby Dalla's new career as a shit poster. Sorry, that's a bad word. This is a video she did. Her social media game is epic. There was one where she said that she's the Donald Trump version, the Canadian Donald Trump version. I'm going to see if I can find it. I wanted to find it the other day, but Someone had sent it to me via message, but I can't find it. Come on. I think it's this is one of them. It said, "Oh, Canada's female Donald Trump ready to take on president." Oh, here it is. Canada's female Donald Trump ready to take on president. So she posted that. You know what? I really do hope she wins. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I hope she wins because I really don't want Mark Carney to win, and I don't think I don't think she would win the next election by any means. The polling is just so conservative, so CPC. So, but I think she would make things really interesting for the first few months until the next election. And again, I would rather have her in than Carney. She said some stuff that I like. Again, I'm not a liberal. I have a hard time stomaching that she's running as a liberal, but she said some stuff about immigration. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to find some post here about immigration, how she's going to cut back on immigration. I do think that's a really good move. Oh, this is another post. We need fresh leadership from a businesswoman who knows how to get a deal done with Trump through dialogue and diplomacy. I will put an end to this trade war. So that was February 3rd. Anyways, I'm really excited to have her come on. If you know of any questions you want me to ask her, I'm going to be submitting some later on tonight to her team. Good opposition. And I'm just looking here at some of the comments. Ask her position on the terrorists on our streets. That's a really good question, actually. One of the True North people is running for the UCP, and they went on his own in the UK. I don't know if that you're talking about two people or just one. Maria says, "Oh, nice. I'm still not voting for any left party." No, and you know what? I'm not telling you guys to vote for her in the general election. But there are a lot of conservatives who went and got memberships to the Liberal Party. I didn't promote it, but there are some who did. The pleb was telling people to get membership, and they wanted people to vote for what's his name? He was one of the contenders that didn't speak French and said he doesn't need to speak French, and they wanted him to win because then it just ensures it's going to be a conservative government next time. But so there's a lot of conservative voting people who bought membership or didn't buy, they were free, who got memberships to the Liberal Party. And maybe some of those people follow me. So if they're going to cast a ballot, I would rather it be for her than for Carney. Perhaps a right-leaning liberal? Question mark. Good opposition leader. She might save the Liberal Party. And yeah, she did talk about deporting criminal immigrants. Imagine if she won and then there was an election, conservative got in. She's not going to counter that as the opposition leader and say, oh no, don't deport illegal immigrants. Too late for Ruby to run as a leader, but she could run for PPC and cross the floor to CCP. Do you mean PPC? Well, she is running for leader of the Liberal Party. She's still in the running. She'd be interesting to listen to. Maybe put the fear in Trudeau. Like, she is still a candidate for the Liberal Party. And Brenda said, I couldn't leave the cons because it gave a false poll improvement in party affiliation. You're right. Like, I didn't like I said, I didn't even tell people to do that. I know there was other conservative commentator who did. I couldn't tell people to do that because I can't in good conscience tell people who have values that are so different from the Liberal Party to support a party that basically, like, I couldn't, because you have to check a box that you agree with their party priorities, and the Liberal Party has gone so far left that I can't agree to their party priorities. So I personally don't have a vote, but there are a lot of people who did. So, and I think it's just interesting too to hear what she has to say, considering some of the stuff she's been saying, I would agree with. So not everything, but some of it. Sorry, that's my alarm clock to go pick up my son from school. Anyway, so she's coming on Monday, so that should be really entertaining and fun. If you Chandra was, yes, sorry, Maria. Chandra was the other one they were telling people to vote for, but Chandra got kicked out of the leadership race. But Ruby is still in. And if you have a vote and you're going to vote between one of them, I think Ruby would be better than Carney, personally. But and I think that's it. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. I have to run quick to the city. So Monday, I will be on right at 12 with Ruby Dalla, the potentially next Prime Minister of Canada. There is a percentage that it could happen, especially if they're doing like a staggered voting where your first vote goes to someone, and then if that person drops down, the secondary vote would go to someone else. Like if everyone who's voting for Chrystia Freeland, whoever the other ones are, puts Ruby as their second, she could potentially be the next prime minister. I could potentially be interviewing the next prime minister of Canada. So anyways, I'm super excited about it. And like I said, I love some of the stuff she's been posting. I don't agree with everything, and I definitely don't agree with the Liberal Party's priority, especially the way they function in the last 8-10 years. But I'm just glad they said yes, and I'm going to try to do as fair of an interview as possible. And I'm trying to think. John Degenstein says Carney is dangerous. Yes, extremely dangerous. I fully agree with that. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go, and I will be back on Monday. If you don't already follow me, wherever you're watching this, follow, subscribe, do all the things that people say to do at the end of a show. And happy Valentine's Day. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday.